talk to us first off. What do you think this is going to mean for the overall market when it comes to Australia's exports to the US, when it comes to beef? Does this necessarily change the picture very much?
Thanks for having me. Look, I don't think it will change the export picture for Australian beef to the United States. We've traded for a long time quite successfully, and this was more about imports of beef from the US into Australia. While US beef imports were allowed if they could demonstrate that they were both born and processed in the US, it was just that beef that was shipped through the US from Mexico and Canada where there were questions that was holding up this trade. So in terms of our exports, I don't think it will impact on our exports, but it will, and the impact of it on our imports is likely to be minimal.
Do you think this gesture by Australia, though, is enough for a sort of deal that could ease pressure off the pharmaceutical or the steel sectors?
You'd hope it is definitely a demonstration, or taken as a demonstration of goodwill by Australia, but really the review of access for beef from the US has been underway for many, many years. It was just a matter of time, I think, before the review was concluded. It was just competing with other export protocol reviews. So it wasn't necessarily done as a result of President Trump's request for beef restrictions to be lifted. But I think, yes, it should be seen as an act of goodwill. Australia has a trade deficit with the United States. We have very minimal tariffs on US imports. In fact, I think it's almost 100% except for one or two products. US products can access the Australian market tariff-free. So there is really no reason for the US to be imposing tariffs on Australia. US tariff policy at the moment is a little bit difficult to understand on any front.
I don't think Australia is the only one that's really confused at this point, but Prime Minister Albanese has said earlier that he wouldn't really compromise Australia's biosecurity regime in order to give in to President Trump's demands. How will he be able to sell this?
So, as I said, it was a review that's been underway for some time. It absolutely complies with Australia's biosecurity requirements. I don't see it as a compromise at all of our biosecurity requirements. So I think he's on very solid ground there in terms of saying that this allowance for US beef, including beef transship from both, as I said, Canada and Mexico, is in compliance, and it's not really an issue. It should have probably happened much earlier.
When we look at the latest Australian surveys when it comes to sentiment towards the United States, they're not necessarily favorable when it comes to President Trump. Will the public accept this, and what sort of deal can we expect between the US and Australia?
So at the moment, we've got, as you know, a 10% tariff imposed on Australian goods. I think Australians are not looking positively at President Trump or necessarily the US, who are so clearly supportive of what President Trump is doing. In terms of a trade deal, we had our FTA negotiated in 2005. The 10%, I think, is probably as good as it's going to get, with recent announcements of a possible 15 to 20% base tariff on all countries. Australia will be seeking maintenance of the 10%, if not abolition of the tariff altogether. The chances of getting abolition, obviously, slim to zero. If President Trump decides to put a universal tariff up to 15 to 20%, I think Australia has very good grounds for pushing very hard for maintenance of the 10%.
That being said, though, I think the broader concern for Australia is the knock-on or ripple effect indirectly from tariffs from its trading partners. So what are you seeing in the assessment from potentially what that means for exports?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the knock-on effect that Australia is most worried about. So I think the government is pursuing that on two fronts. One, we are very much looking at Australia's own productivity and domestic competitiveness, international competitiveness, and what we can do here within Australia to increase the resilience and the competitiveness of Australian exports. But secondly, the government is very much reaching out to like-minded trading partners, the European Union, South Korea, Japan, all of these countries to try and reinforce the trade rules that exist. Of course, what we're seeing, though, are many of these countries are negotiating their own bilateral deals, as you know, which in many respects I think might weaken the ability of countries to stand together. They're responding to domestic pressure completely understandably, but I think it would be preferable if countries could work together in terms of countering what President Trump is doing.
Prudence Gordon, good to have you with us, Executive Director at the Australian Centre for International Trade and Investment. We have more on Australia ahead every Tuesday at 10:40 a.m. if you're watching in Sydney, 8:40 a.m. in Hong Kong. Plus, you can tune into the Bloomberg Australia podcast, which delves into the biggest stories shaping the country's role in global business. Find it on Apple, Spotify, or Bloomberg.com.